Hey, everybody. Welcome back to what has now become a very long series of conversations with interesting people in the industry. Today, I am joined by sisters, April and Nikki, who have a great backstory, but also have a great current trend that they're working on. They have an app, and I love that they are sisters working together. I love that they're making this happen during COVID because I think it is something that can be useful to everybody out in the industry. And so I want you guys to take a moment and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got here and what you're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're
Yeah.
really excited to talk to you today. You want to go ahead and dive into your background first?
Oh, you can kick it off.
I'll kick it off. Okay.
Look at sisters. You're being so nice to each other.
So this is Nikki. I'm actually a hairstylist. So I've been in the industry for about 11 years now. I do have a very interesting background. I actually went to college first. So I did not start, at 16, 17, 18 years old, which is fairly common in this industry.
Yeah.
I actually went to college first, graduated, have my degree in psychology. And there was just something really missing in my life. I wanted that creativity. I wanted that expression while talking to people at the same time.
Yeah.
And what better marriage than a hairstylist, being able to be creative and being able to talk to people all at the same time. And so started my career out in Colorado, and I was in Denver for about 3 years as a hairstylist. And that's actually where I built my first school. So built my first academy.
Yep.
I was 8 years behind everybody else, and I had to catch up. And so that's where I really fell in love with education. So education has been part of my career since the very, very beginning.
Right.
And because I struggled, I actually started creating a program to help myself learn color theory, cutting, how to actually book clients, and ended up turning that into my first academy out in Colorado. And so it's licensed by the state, still up and running today.
Wow.
And then, it's very proud of that. I think it's graduated well over a couple hundred people now. So it's an advanced academy. It's after you've actually completed your hours in
Right.
school. And then I moved out to New York City. And so in New York, I continued to work behind the chair. I built 2 more academies when I was out there, expanded into nationwide salon consulting. So helped a lot of educators, salon owners, and stylists build up their businesses. And then worked for a major salon chain out there and helped expand their locations across the country. So very, very involved in the beauty industry over the last 11 years, and I've seen almost everything.
Excellent. So part of maybe what you don't know about me is that I'm not a stylist. I actually know very little about it. I always laugh that my hairstyle sort of gives me away that I don't really know much about hair or makeup or any of those things. My background's in nursing. And so I've kind of ended up in an interesting place as a nurse. So I get that, following a different path. And I love that when people do that. So, all right, so let's hear from you. What's your background?
Yeah, so for me, I also don't come from the industry, but I feel like I've been an honorary student because of mine and Nikki's relationship and hearing about the industry for so long. We also have a long lineage in the industry, so a lot of aunts, a lot of cousins that have been hairstylists, beauty professionals, salon owners. But I started my career in business development, so doing door-to-door sales. And then I quickly moved on to an investment startup here in Austin, Texas. So I was a 5th hire there, helped grow that company to over 50 employees. And the company that I was at, we drilled oil wells across the US. So we raised and deployed $130 million while I was there.
Wow.
Vastly different than the beauty industry. So I was in a very white male dominated industry. I was one of the only females at my company for a long time, the only minority at my company. So really different than the beauty industry, which is, I'm sure, as you know, 90% females, 66% of barbers are Black and Latinx. And for me, I always had this craving to really do something that had more impact. I'm very, very much analytical on the business expertise side of things, but oil and gas just wasn't it for me. And I'm very driven by community, and something that I recognized in my career while I was overseeing all of our operations and technology strategies and investor strategies was that regardless, no matter what I was trying to find, I could find access to it throughout these digital networks online. So there were an array of digital communities because I was in oil and gas, because I was in investing, because I was in startups and technology. And that's really where the stark contrast is to beauty, you know, because Nikki's career and the industry that she's in, the beauty industry didn't have a professional online network that was so common for me in my career to find these pathways in education.
That's such a great story. You know, one of the things I have said on this series before is that in nursing, I remember specifically one day in nursing school when they had some speakers come in that did things that, you know, weren't the typical nurse, you know, the nurse in the hospital or the nurse in the doctor's office. And they talked about their career path and how they got there. And I remember thinking that could be me someday. Like someday I might not be a nurse. And you said you were looking for something impactful. And I come the opposite direction because I could see my impact. You know, I was a labor and delivery nurse. I saw a baby be born. I saw a patient go home from the hospital. So for me coming into the beauty industry, it was almost hard for me to find what my impact could be in this industry. And, you know, I felt like for all these years I've been going around talking about the importance of infection control and doing the right thing. There'll be a pandemic someday, and everyone was like, yeah. And so I'm finally starting to feel like, you know, the impact that I've been trying to have on this industry, I'm finally getting to have. And it's why I want to sort of spread this out with everybody else I talk to. I want everyone to feel like, you know, there's all these spots that people can be in and all these gaps that can be filled and make it a more whole experience for everybody. And I was really struck when I read on your website, you talked about how people feel like this as a career, like a last ditch effort. Like if I can't do anything else, I'll go be a stylist. I'll go be a cosmetologist. That is how people maybe view themselves, or maybe their parents made them feel if they didn't want to go to a 4-year college and they wanted to be a stylist. We've interviewed some really high level people like you, for example, that went to college and still this is what they wanted to do. So I love that you have that sort of understanding of how a lot of people end up in this industry, but you empower them to see the really value in what they do. So tell me a little bit, I know it's on your website, but tell me how you picked the word handsome for your app.
Go for it.
Yeah. You know, just like what you said, Leslie, there is this heavy stigma when it comes to beauty professionals. And Nikki has her own personal story. I'll let her tell that in a little while. But there's such a big stigma, you know, that it's a fallback career, that you're a beauty school dropout. And when you say the word beauty and you say the word beautiful, there is a negative connotation that comes with it. You know, it's always looked as frivolous and fluffy, and you're almost dismissed if you're associated and tied to the word beauty and beautiful. And so what we wanted to do, you know, when you say the word handsome and you think of that word, there's this level of stature, sophistication, respectability, you know, and so we wanted to pull that word into beauty and actually reclaim a word for beauty professionals. And we're really challenging the stigmas and the norms in the industry that beauty is frivolous by pulling in handsome for an industry that's 90% women.
I mean, I love when I read why you picked that word, because it's something I battle all the time when I'm talking to government officials, or we're working in a deregulation case in a state, for example, and they'll say, oh, the beauty industry. I mean, and typically, quite frankly, it's a bunch of men saying, oh, the beauty industry, like it's right, or something like so vain that why are you even bothering us with this? It doesn't really matter, you know, digging oil wells and oil fields, that matters, but somehow this doesn't matter. And I think the reality is that no matter what you do, whether you're male or female, if you look good, if you look your best, you feel your best, you feel confident, you go out and you do your job in a different way. And so, you know, one of the things I would never want to undermine is somebody's ability to look and feel their best. And if a cosmetologist, a barber, an esthetician can make somebody feel that way, I'm all in. So apparently you have a story about your relationship with the beauty industry. You want to share it?
Yes, I do. So I was 17. I had graduated high school a little bit early for my age, I guess. And my dad asked me, you know, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And I was just like, I'm going to be a hairstylist. And I remember thinking that this Paul Mitchell
school. You said
it
just like that, like you whispered it, so maybe he wouldn't hear you.
Like a hairstylist. I remember feeling that way. And I remember this Paul Mitchell school that I had gone to and got my hair cut. I was like, this is magic. Like, they're all wearing black. they're all like cutting hair. There's music going on. They're talking, they're laughing. This is where I'm getting chills. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, no, you can't make any money as a hairstylist. You need to go to college. And I was like, oh, I can't make any money as a hairstylist. I got to go to college. He's like, you're going to be the first generation. You need to go to college. And so I remember at that point being like, I didn't understand, I didn't really understand why. And this is what, 11, no. How old am I?
It's like
17 years ago.
We're all good.
This is like 20 years ago. Never mind. This is like 20 years ago. So obviously way before any type of social media or recognition or notability or notoriety around the industry. So I ended up going to college, did not want to do that. I actually ended up going to this guy in Fort Collins who did phenomenal dark hair. And he had just the best clientele. Every time I went into his shop, I was just blown away by the dynamics, by the people, by the energy. And so I started asking him a lot of questions around, like, how do you do this? How do you tone hair? What does that even mean? And he offered me a job. He was like, are you almost done with school? I was like, yeah. He was like, come work for me. I was like, oh no, college. I'm not even in beauty school. Yeah. And so that's really what sparked this, re-sparked this fire in me to actually go back. And I ended up working for him. He was my first salon that I ended up working for. It was a phenomenal salon in Denver, still up and running. That's where I built my first school. And as far as like it being seen as a fallback career, I think what a lot of people see from the outside looking in is that this industry and the professionals that are in it are not intelligent, aren't motivated, don't have the means to be successful, and they couldn't be more wrong. It's a different type of intelligence, It's emotional intelligence, it's communicating, it's understanding people, it's translating, it's helping people feel, like you said, their best. And that takes a really high level of intelligence to do. And so I think, from the outside world looking in, it does look like that. It does look like it's a fallback career. But from the inside out, we don't struggle going to beauty school, paying, $20,000, $30,000 and not really learning anything, because it's a fallback career. We do it because we are deeply passionate about what we do. And so that's ties into what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing, because we want not only the people in the industry to feel that themselves, but, sometime down the line, a dad to be able to tell his daughter, you go be a hairstylist. Yeah. Like, don't go to college.
Thing to do. The thing is that the one word that I always talk about when I go into a school, when I walk into a school setting, is the one thing I feel is passion. Like these students are passionate about what they're doing. And when you were talking about going into a salon and feeling that, like you said, it's going to make me emotional here, because you felt that. My dad was a doctor, and when I was a kid, I would go with him on weekends to do rounds on his patients. And I remember being little and going into the hospital, and I'd be like, oh, I love this feeling. Like, I just loved the feeling of being there. And so I knew from a really young age that was my passion. And I think that is not unusual in healthcare. It's also not unusual in the beauty industry for people to say, I always knew I wanted to be involved with this. I knew this was a place I felt passionate about. So now that we've cleared up the air of why we're all here, and that we are all here for the right reasons to make everybody feel good about their choices, and about, we all want to support other people. My biggest desire for this platform is that I inspire some young girl who's, or young boy who's watching this and says, I want that career field, to say, look at all these people who support you. Look at all these people who came before you, and look at all the things you can do. So with that said, tell us about your app. Tell me a little bit about the Handsome app.
Yeah, Handsome for us, we are obviously, as you can tell, we're so deeply passionate about what we're building. And the core of what we're building is all around community. It's around building this safe place, a trusted community where beauty professionals can have conversations and find a pathway that they can't find anywhere else. The conversations they can't have anywhere else. And so Handsome is a mobile app. We're in iOS on the App Store. It's a place where a beauty professional, a hairstylist, a barber, esthetician, makeup artist, salon owner, educator, anybody that works within a salon spa scope can come and find career advice, peer-to-peer support. They can ask questions and get answers from industry experts. They can find education and attend education, and they can also find the next step in their career. They can find jobs, they can find scholarships. So it's a really full end-to-end solution where beauty pros can find the support that they need no matter what stage in their career that they're at.
So I thought it was interesting. One of the things I noticed when I looked at your app is that you have, and at first I was like, I don't understand this. Why would they have this? But that, for example, you allow incognito mode. And I thought, that is at first I was like, well, why? And then I thought about it. And I thought, if you're asking a question that you might think is dumb to everybody else, you don't want everyone, you don't want to be the one raising your hand in class asking the dumb question.
Yeah.
And on this platform, everybody is going to see it. So you've allowed people to have some grace in something, because I always face that when I'm going out and doing infection control training, is that so many people do it wrong. So many people say they're sterilizing things. Yesterday I was at the airport and it said sterile area, and I rolled my eyes. I was like, it's not sterile, but it's so hard to, you don't want to embarrass people, right? You want to educate them and not embarrass them. So I thought that was a great piece of your platform. Do you get a lot of people using that? I'm curious.
Oh, it's like our top feature.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we did incognito, just as you said, because a couple of reasons. One, it is meant for the entire beauty community. So let's say you're working at a salon and you're having a struggle with your salon owner, and you should be able to come into this community and ask, how do I deal with my salon owner? Without, you're trying to find help, you're trying to find advice without judgment, and so we also offer replies incognito. And we did that because if you're the one that wants to reply and really be honest, but you don't want your name attached to it, we want you to have that full ownership of the question and the answer that you're giving. And it's really been a very beautiful thing because everybody's taking this very responsibly. We haven't had one issue of people using this to what is that called?
Smashing somebody.
Yeah.
This is we have a pop-up that says no trolling allowed.
Yeah. It's good. It's, we want people to have ownership of what they're seeking. They need to find this knowledge. And oftentimes in our career, we're already very timid when it comes to fully expressing ourselves or asking questions or asking for what we want and what we deserve, and I think that the industry as a whole has a hard time doing that because we're so empathetic towards people. We don't want to hurt people. And so this really provides that safe space, for yourself to ask those questions, but also to give answers to help other people along their pathway.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so now moving on, education. Tell me, are you offering, I know you offer, for example, like barbicide certification, I know is on there. Is there continuing ed available on there for the states that require it? I mean, what's the breadth of your education, so to speak?
Yeah, so we actually, we've always known that education is big in this industry, obviously. We know it's the core of anybody's career, all the way from when you're starting to when you decide to actually step away to getting another job that's not behind the chair. And so what we discovered throughout COVID is that everybody was posting these flyers in our app. Everybody was saying, I'm sure that you've seen it on Instagram, like, hey, follow this class that we're having in this Instagram live that we're having in it. And there's no way to actually create a calendar for yourself or to be able to find classes all in one place.
Right.
So what we've done right now, it's a very MVP version of what we're going to be focusing on over the next year, but it is a class calendar. So anybody can come in and put their classes in there. So anybody from those small little shops, small little shop education that you're having in your neighborhood, all the way up to large, big beauty shows that are happening all over the country. And you can go in there, put the flyer, put the information in, register for the class, sign up for the class, set a reminder. So it essentially becomes your calendar for yourself. It reminds you before 24 hours before your class starts or your live or your webinar, or whatever it may be. And then at the time of the event, it also sends out a reminder for you. So it's what we're planning on doing with that is really providing a place where anybody can come in and find the education that they need at that moment in their career. Because you need different education when you're an assistant versus when you're 10 years in, Right. You want to add anything?
No, I think that was it. I mean, we're essentially organizing and aggregating education so it's easier, it's more accessible to the industry.
I think that's fabulous because to your point earlier, there's not one place. I've struggled with that a little bit with this deregulation argument where I'm constantly going to a state and wanting to have stylists or barbers or whoever it is engaged in the conversation, but there's not a place where they aggregate. There's not a spot where I can say, hey, all you stylists in Indiana or whatever state, Texas, can you help me out here? Because I want to go and make a presence, this bill's being introduced, or, I want to hear your feedback. There's not a place to go for that. So I'm kind of thinking it's sort of like Facebook for stylists, only in a, a much more elevated way, but it's a place where they can aggregate and have similar desires. And some of the education, to your point, isn't so cut and dry. Like we introduced domestic violence training on our website. Could not have guessed the reaction we were going to get, that it was almost overwhelming. And we had just simply been approached by somebody in the state of Tennessee saying, hey, we're going to require this of our licensees, but there's nowhere for them to get it for free. Would you be willing to put it on your platform? We were like, all right, and so they developed it. We're not subject matter experts in domestic violence. So they developed it. We were happy to house it. And just, it's not one of those classes that's technique driven, but I think everybody should understand that, how to recognize that domestic violence may be going on in somebody's life and what are the resources I could give them. So that education piece, you guys are really doing a great job of making it really broad and allowing people to, really hone in on that factor. So, and then the other aspect I noticed is your sort of employment classified sort of section. And do you guys go out and pull in employers, or are they just coming to you? Like, how's that working, that piece?
Oh, yeah, with jobs, when you think about, what we're doing, it's very different. It's the world of beauty. That's what we're doing. Like April had said, we are aggregating the world's information of beauty, because it's that one-stop shop to be able to find scholarships, education, jobs, career advice, things that you need. You don't have a career counselor at the end of the day helping you navigate, because every salon is different. Ongoing education is different. There's no pathway to really help you succeed. So you have to figure it out on your own. And so our jobs section, it's really, people are coming to us. They're coming in, they're finding it organically. That's something we haven't really been pushing. It's a benefit, to everybody else. We've designed it really well so that your portfolio actually is your living, breathing resume. That's something that doesn't exist right now for the beauty industry, something that's beautifully designed for us, the way we work, the way we view the world. It includes your past work experience. It includes your certifications like Barbicide. It includes your education that you've taken, endorsements, so that way people can come in and endorse you for business skills or technical skills or culture of your salon, whatever it may be, and also recognitions. And so with that very robust portfolio, you can come into these jobs and apply with one tap. So a salon owner on the other end is going to get your application and be able to see everything about you on there. So it's not, archaic like the paper resumes that you're used to walking around door to door, hire me, it's, you can go in there and you can apply to these jobs with just one tap, and the salon owner can see your social handles, your website if you have one, all of your work experience, anything that they really need to know to help them make the best decision for their salon and make it super quick and super easy.
Awesome. So, how is this supported? Is there a fee for being on the app? I'm sure there's, all these opportunities there has to be, but tell me how this is supported.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the app is free. We're a freemium based model. Yeah. We wanted to make sure that we're giving the industry value first, making sure that they're getting a high quality responses and answers in a fully engaged community, somewhere that they can trust. So the app is free to use, it's free to download, it's free to communicate, free to apply to jobs, even free to post jobs right now. The way that we operate on the back end as a business is we're actually a venture-backed company. So we've been raising venture capital dollars in order to fund and launch and deploy Handsome.
So for those people on this watching this interview that may not have a financial background like you do, tell them what venture capital means. What type of people are interested in supporting this? Because I think it is important for this industry to know that there are businesses that are trying to support this and try to grow this, because it benefits. Who like, give us, not, you don't have to give us names, but what types of businesses are supporting this?
Yeah, so venture capital can be anywhere from individual angel investors to funds and firms in large scale corporations. So what that means is, in order to be an investor, you have to be accredited. You have to have a certain level of income, a certain net worth to be accredited and to actually invest in these sorts of companies. So we've raised capital from both angel investors. So those are individuals who see what we're building. One of our investors was actually an investor in MindBody, and so really sees what you're doing and sees the value for the industry and says, how does this not exist? Like, yes, go build it, So we have an array of angel investors, and we also have some small funds and venture capital firms. And those are firms that their entire business model is based off of investing in the next generation of startup businesses.
So I think that was important. The reason I asked the question is I think, we've been talking about the sort of thread we've run through this whole thing is making sure that people in this industry feel valued and feel like we all see a future in them. We all see that all these young professionals and people have been doing it for 40 years, that there's value in what they do. Mm-hmm. And so to say somebody in a financial role somewhere, decided they're going to put their money down, which as we all know is hard to get someone to do, especially, when the economy is sort of up and down at times, that those people even see that value. I think it speaks volumes to the fact that, you aren't just doing the fallback career that, oh, I can't do anything else kind of a career. People see the value and they understand the money that changes hands. I mean, there's a lot of money in this industry. And, I think if COVID didn't teach us anything, and one thing it did teach us is beauty's not going away. People were dying to get back and get their services. People want to, it's what makes them feel presentable and whole. And yeah, some people probably decided that they were going to, I don't know, let their hair go gray or, not get their nails done. There was some percentage of people, and good for them, they're happy that way. But I think for stylists and barbers, everybody across the board recognized everybody who partakes in these services feels like they're valuable. So go ahead.
For us, it's really a double whammy, as far as impact goes, because on one end, it's impacting the industry, giving the industry this community and feeling of being uplifted and united and heard and seen and valued. And then on the other side, it is this impact on the venture capital world for us, because the venture capital world is 90% white men, and that's where the money comes from. In 2019, I might get the numbers a little bit wrong. It was like $190 billion was deployed in venture capital. Only 2% of that went to Black and brown female founders, 2% of that, and we're leading an industry that is highly diverse. It's one of the most diverse industries out there. So for us, it's, we're super passionate because we get to impact on the beauty professionals end, but also on the venture capital landscape and show how important it is to support these demographics of people that are not looked at as a traditional startup demographic.
I run into the same brick wall you do occasionally with that kind of thing, is because that's typically when like I said, my biggest role over the last few years has been going in and trying to help states to prevent deregulation of cosmetology and barbering. I anticipate we'll see a lot of bills in January. This year was kind of quiet, mostly because it was an election year. And so that seems to, sort of slow those bills down, the progress of those bills. But I anticipate we'll see several hundred bills introduced in January to deregulate in some way, shape, or form, whether that is reduction of hours or no regulation at all. And oftentimes I'm talking to those same people, that 98% of the people that have all the money are the 98% of the people I'm talking to. So, I have people say to me, well, what's the worst that can happen? A bad haircut? I'm like, oh no, worse things can happen. That's why they go to school and that's why they're educated. So it's really, I feel like there's a really symbiotic relationship that, we will end up having over time, because a lot of the people you're reaching out to are people that actually I could really use in helping, fight deregulation in their own states, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate what you guys have done. I think it is a fabulous outreach. How many people do you have now on the app?
We have nearly 30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great because we launched this version. We did a lot of beta testing. We really had to figure out where we fit in the market, what was the most needed, what our vision really was about it, and how that all tied together. And so we actually released this back in December, not even a year ago. And so in the last 11 months, we've had, over 30,000 people come onto our platform to find these resources, to find jobs, to find, answers, to be able to post these questions and build a community. And it's really the people who are building this, all of these professionals they're doing it together. They're really pulling together and creating this really amazing space. So it's super fun to be able to watch and grow and see people make shifts and changes in their career. It's very, very rewarding.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to the two of you. I'm sure I will again at some point. Anything else you guys want to tell us? Or you about your
We have
app?
big plans for 2021. We have some really awesome stuff coming up in our product in 2021. Really great partnerships in the works. So we see a really amazing 2021 for Handsome, but for the industry.
So maybe I'll revisit you guys early in January, and you can roll some more stuff out to all of our Barbicide participants. If some of them are on the fence about joining, maybe we can get them over the other side. So
yes, definitely.
thank you guys so much for taking the time today. I know you guys are busy, and things are opening back up everywhere, so that makes you even busier. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes, thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
All right, we're done. That was great. You guys were really fast.